Welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at the OEM USB charger cable which I've purchased from Paget in the UK. It took a few days to get here and here it is, so we'll get right on with the unboxing and see what we've got in here. Hopefully USB charger. Hopefully the right part. That seems an awfully big box. Oh, that's interesting. So it comes in an Amazon box. It isn't from Amazon, of course. So, got my invoice. I paid £46.75 for that. It's slightly reduced at the moment, only by about £3. It is quite expensive, this is, to be fair. I have seen there are some alternative devices available, but they're more like a cable. And yes, they're very, very good value. But I didn't really want it attached to the handlebar, which is what would happen. But of course, this one attaches to the actual speedo of it instead. So let's have a quick look at this. Okay. I expect that Honda usually gives you a barcode. Oh, here it is, USB charger, made in China, of course. So there it is. Is that it? It should come with a base plate. Yes, here it is. I don't expect there to be any instructions. We'll have to have a barcode and download it, or a link. Yeah, there you go. There's the link that you usually get. I shall have to use the phone to get that link, and then I'll have to download the PDF instructions, which will tell you how to install it. So this must be the PCB or module, I'd imagine. So the actual USB. Oh no, is it the cable? Yeah, no, that's right. It is. Ah, I see. So we've got the connectors there. There you go. And how does this work? Right, and there it is. So this is a USB-C, not USB-A. So just so that everybody knows that this is a USB-C. So if you've got an iPhone or an older iPhone, you're going to need to use the USB-C to the Lightning connector. Most Android handsets seem to have the USB-C by default, and of course the newer iPhones do as well, and a bunch of other products as well. So that's come in that box, and then we should have, not sure what that would be. Oh, I see, that looks like the housing. So whereas the other cables that you can buy are very inexpensive, they're £10–15 or so, this is significantly more expensive, but you can see why, because it comes, oh right, oh I see. So this actually comes with, right, got it. So this is a waterproof housing for it. So, and there's the screw to mount it all. So that would go inside there, so as it gives it some water resistance. And then we should have a base plate, which will replace the base plate on the existing module that comes off. Now this will attach to the underside of the speedo and clocks. So it will require the clocks and the speedo to be completely removed. And then this would attach somewhere along the line, somewhere here. Can't remember where that would go. To the underside here somewhere. But I will download the instructions and I will do an installation video as well. Let's move that in, so that everybody can see exactly what's involved here. So the module, a little screw, a waterproof housing for it, and then the back plate. And actually you can see where the screws come out here to detach the original base plate. It sounds a bit scary to do it, but I think it'll probably be fairly straightforward. Anyway, we'll get straight on to the installation process and see how it goes. I've been on the internet. I've looked to see if there is any instructions, PDF instructions, and used the links on the pamphlet that came with the USB charger unit, and of course there's nothing available. Oh no! I have seen a YouTube video of somebody installing this device on the GB350C, which is the classic one, which is basically a copy, I would say, of the Royal Enfield Classic 350, and it's similar but not exactly the same. But I'd like to give credit to that person who did that video, which is actually very informative, and there's probably a lot of similarities to this installation. So without further ado, I'm going to start the installation now without any instructions, and I think it should be straightforward enough. So it will probably require me to just remove this screen, which I think will make things a little bit easier for me. And then it's going to require me to probably, don't know whether you can see that, unbolt down here to drop this whole headlight assembly down. The reason for that is that you need access to the back of that module in order to get the speedometer module away from the bracket with 3 screws. And we're going to need to remove these screws here, that one there, that one there, and the equivalent the other side, in order to take this headlight unit out so we can reveal all the cable loom in order to plug it all in. But I probably won't need to necessarily do that right away, but we'll have a go. So I've got a magnetic screwdriver here, so we're going to just remove these screws here. I think I'll probably have to actually check to see how far we need to remove that out of there. But that's probably far enough. So we'll remove the other ones. Looks like there's some, maybe some washers there as well. Yeah, that's come away now nicely. So let's have another go at this. Yes, it's very annoying, very frustrating that Honda haven't updated their documentation to include the installation of this charger unit. Oh, let's put away now. I have to be a bit careful, I think. So what I don't want to do is to right, that one's come undone. So the last one there. bit tricky with one hand. I'll have to get the lane. So there's the screen now removed, revealing the brackets, so I can then put that to one side. So this is the idea, you can see in there, and I'm not going to be able to get to those bolts. I just won't be able to get to them until I remove, or certainly lower this headlight away. And the only way that I can see to do that potentially is to take those nuts out, those bolts out there. Yeah, so I can lift that whole headlight unit away. Yeah, and then I can gain access to this to replace that bottom plate. So yeah, having the Honda OEM sort of like part is certainly not an easy installation. Certainly it's added extra complications if you've got the fly screen here that I've got. I think even without, it's going to be a fiddle. I mean, obviously you've got to take these 4 bolts out of the side here. I don't think there's any more, no. To gain access to, or at least to split these parts, the back and the front, so that you can gain access to the cabling. So we're going to take these bolts out here, which hold the back part to the front part, or the front part to the back part. So these are the bolts. And there's another one down here. Now I've put something over the mudguard just in case everything drops. So we've got, there's 4 bolts on the GB350 headlight, in the UK anyway. And we're going to take the last one out here. Now this should, in theory, here we go, just come out now. And you should be able to see in there, if you look in there, see if I can get a bit of extra light on that for us. There's a connector there, it looks like it's the only connector. And then there's further connectors inside here. And what I've been told, here we are. So these 2 green connectors, I gather. Actually, I thought it was a red one and a green one. Oh. Yeah, so I think it's these 2, the green and the red, which we need to plug in to the unit. And of course we've got to feed the cable through here. So for safety's sake, I'm going to pull this off, which is going to be interesting. Let's see if I can try and do that. I'm not sure how this works. Ah, I think that works like this. Like that. So you can see that connector there has come away from this in the top here. This is now able to be removed completely, which I'll take away now. Over here. And now, when we've done that, what we've got to do is, if you look underneath here, you can clearly see that I've got 2 bolts. I've slackened both off, but I'm going to have to withdraw this one. So I'll withdraw that one, being mindful of any washers and there's no washers in that. So there's the bolt removed. That should enable us to pull this forwards. Now let's just see if this will work. And you can see it's pulling on the cables a bit. May have to unslacken that one a bit more. That may have to remove that completely, that's annoying. So we're going to have to take both out. So there you go, we've got both bolts out now. And we should now be able to move this one, which has got rubber grommets in. Let's have a look, see if we can pull this out completely. Right, there we go. Now I'm hoping that will enable us to get some room here to be able to unscrew these 3 bolts here. So that's not been the easiest task, I have to say. It's going to be quite tricky getting that in there. So what we'll probably have to do is we'll have to remove maybe that bracket completely from here. That'll be a bit irritating to have to do that. So we may have to remove this as well. And then slide that out, because this is stopping me from getting any further down than that, you see. So that's what we'll have to do, I think. We'll have to take these off as well to get this bracket out the way, which would only affect people. Let's think about it. Yes, actually it'll affect everybody, because this here is the adapter bracket for the screen. So this will be an OEM part on all bikes. So yeah, you're going to have to take this bracket off in order to rotate this enough to get the angle to remove those bolts up there. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll come back to you having this angled sufficiently enough so that we can continue. So my helper, thank God, she's here, Elaine. She's helping me video this. So we've got to get in there. So you need a right angled little socket like this. And we need to just take these 3 bolts out. Well, actually, there's looks like self-tapping type screws to me. Yeah, they are. They're little self-tapping screws. I don't know if you can see that like that. And there's 3 of these. 1. And then there's the next one here. Oops. Can be a bit tricky. And because they're self-tappers, they don't loosen up really quickly. They're quite stiff all the way out, and you'll find that. So just bear in mind anything that could scratch. You don't want anything to scratch this rear panel here. So here we go. There's another one out. It was quite tricky, I have to say. And then the final one. Whoop. And that will be the 3rd one and final one. Now this should just pull off here, and of course we've got this connector, so we're going to have to pull this back, which is a waterproof type cover, and that will then reveal this plug. And we've got to pull that out. So here it is all here. I'm not sure whether you've got to put pressure on this somewhere. Yeah, it looks like there is. And there it is. Now, I don't know whether you saw that. Let me show you. If you look over the top here, Elaine, so bring the screen over here and camera over, you can see that in here, on the plug, you've got to depress that. Can you see that? That there, you've got to depress that in order to extract the unit. And then the unit is completely free. And there's a lot of pins in there, so when you put it back in, make sure you don't bend any of those. And what we're going to do in the next part of the video is we're going to remove all of this and this back plate and replace it with a new back plate, which comprises the USB port. For this next part, we've got the module here now, and we're going to have to remove the back plate off here and put this new back plate on. We're then going to have to put this inside the sleeve and then add that to the back plate, and then we're ready to install it. So let's have a go at that. So it looks to me, judging by these, we've got to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of those screws are going to have to be removed from here. So that's a smallish head on there. So we'll just get that sorted. These are very stiff indeed, these screws. So just be aware, they're not going to come out easily. And when I'm doing these, it's important to understand that they are very long and self-tapping again. So it'd be easy to cross thread these. So very carefully you need to select the right head for your screwdriver. Otherwise you could damage the screw heads as well. Oops. That's come off. And a significant amount of pressure is needed to be brought to bear on these screws. Well, that's 3 gone. That first one was very tricky. These are a little easier. And the last one. Now I'm hoping that this panel will just come off. Let's hope that it does. We need a little bit of gentle persuasion. And there we are. There's the PCB. Now it's important not to touch any of that with your hands, because you could damage it with static charge. So just simply put that straight on there and hopefully it'll marry up. Again, quite tricky to get that in. And there you go. So that's clipped back in. So that's the old unit. That's the new one. It doesn't look an awful lot different, does it? And I think the reason for that. So what's missing and what's added? Well, we can see this is added, this little bracket here. And in fact, that appears to be the only difference. Otherwise, there's no difference, obviously, apart from that little sticker, which if you wanted to, you could probably just take off and put back on if you wanted to. So we're going to put these screws back in now. And what I tend to do to try and get the thread right, if you go rotate with your finger anti-clockwise, you'll hear it click like that. When you've done that, that means it's engaged into the let's try it again, into the thread. There you go. And now you know you're not going to cross thread it. And I'm just going to screw it in part of the way and do the next one just the same. So again, you'll hear it. This is the trouble with these self-tapping screws. If you just rotate anti-clockwise until you hear or feel the click like that, then you're okay. That was a bit quieter that time, but trust me, I did feel it. So that's a little golden tip, so as you don't cross thread, which is so easy with these self-tapping screws. Very, very, very subtle, that one. There, click. And then the next one. In fact, I think I felt that click underneath my finger. Yes, I did. So that just goes straight in. And the remaining one, I felt that click. So that will then go straight in as well. So we are tightening all these up now. Just being a little bit wary to not over tighten them and then strip the head of the screw as well, which will mean it'll be very difficult to take it off again. Now, I don't know whether this will invalidate any kind of warranty claim on the motorbike. You would have to check with your dealer. I would suspect it didn't, unless it was something to do with the electrics, and then it could be in question. Now obviously if it's a dealer installed unit, then no, it won't. But it's always important, I think, probably just to check. Having said that, I didn't check, so I don't know. But I would imagine that they would be quite churlish to not allow you a warranty claim on any associated electrical faults just because you decided to fit this unit, which at the end of the day is an OEM original Honda part, and under the terms and conditions of the warranty it does very specifically state that if you fit proper Honda accessories which are approved, then the warranty isn't affected. So I would imagine that that would be fine. But I'm just giving this a little tiny tighten. And because these are self-tappers and they go directly into plastic or polycarbonate, you don't need to be over exuberant with the tightening of these, or else you'll just strip them. And there we have it. So we're now going to assemble the rest of it, which is probably going to be quite tricky because I've noticed that this clip is significantly further forwards than it appears that it needs to be. But I'm thinking that this is likely to be the anchor point. So what we've got to do is that we've got to insert this into here first. And then what's going to happen is that this is going to be angled towards you, like that. So that is obviously going to go into there, having clipped into here. Can you see where it's going to go? But we need that waterproof shroud obviously over the top first, which is going to be a bit tricky. And that should then get us in here okay. So we'll try that. So this is quite tricky. I've already tried to get this in, and it's not the easiest part to get in here. So let's have a go. So clearly we've got to get that out of the way. Don't really can see that very well on camera. So that's gone in there okay. And then I would imagine that that would go, yes, that would probably go, I think that's designed to go there. Can you see that that's fitting over there? And then you're going to have to pull this over the top. Hope that it won't snap. Okay, so that appears to have gone over. Okay. Yeah, not the easiest thing to fiddle with, but yeah, it's gone. And of course then this little shroud door goes over the top and seals it from weather. So what we've installed is just basically a weather sealing option. I mean, if you ride in the desert or something, you probably would need to install that. And then clearly this fits into here. And there you go. Oh, that was a nice confident click. And there we have it. So that's obviously gone in there. So we just now need to add the securing screw, which I've used a slightly larger fitment for, to give a bit of application on it. This is almost certainly not going to be tapped already by the self-tapping screw, so you're going to be a bit careful tapping that in yourself. So we'll do that now, just slow and easy. Until it tightens, and then a little bit more of a tug, and that's it. That's now secured. So there we are. So that is the construction of the module with the speedo and all the idiot lights, and that can now be replaced or go back onto the motorbike, ready for the next part, which is basically reassembly and connection. So we're going to get that on there, and we should hear a nice click. I think that might have been it. Just make sure that was it. Can we pull it out? No. So that was it. That clicked in. Now this has obviously got to make a watertight connection here. So we'll fiddle with that probably after we've hopefully got it all in. So let's just see if we can push this down. I'm going to thread this cable through behind here, I think. And probably through here. In fact, we've got a little cable tidy here, so I suspect that that might be a cunning ploy to get that in there. If we can get it in there. That's a bit tight in there, isn't it? So I'm going to try, there you go. So that's now all the way in there. Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, that's too tight to get in there. So we're going to have to pull that quite tight. It's all very tight in there. There you go. That's now gone in. That's really tight to get that in there. And then now we've got that where we want it. Right. And that connector, which is really quite tricky to get in, because the back side of that doesn't want to go over, because it's this side of the... So we've got to try and get that connector in there, which is not easy. That's proving quite difficult. Ah, what's that? Did that work? I think that might have been it. That's quite tricky to get in there. So that's now in there, and that's secured. So now we can get those bolts in. So we've got a cable tie type thing here. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to feed that in there as well. That seems to almost be lending itself to that. And would be a sensible thing to do, I think. Given the bike is a single, there's a significant amount of vibration. I think it's sensible to put that in there. So that's now secured. And we're then going to feed it through one of these holes. And it appears I've only got... All right, I've got a couple here. So potentially I could fit it in underneath here, I suppose. That would probably be the easiest one to go for. Yeah. Well, there's another one which is through there, which is considerably tighter. Let's feed that in around the top of that, around there. And then you need a red and a green. So there's the red and the green. So quite tricky. So I'm going to try and fit that red one in there. And that's clicked in. And then there's the green one, the corresponding green one there. Oh, that's nicely clicked in there as well. So try that and see what happens with those. So that's in now. But before we put anything else back, we need to check this and make sure it all works. I would recommend, although I don't know for sure, but I would recommend that we put this back in the headlight as well. Because if we don't, there may be some kind of error that might occur. And let's just make sure that's the right way round. I think it's that way round actually. Just to be absolutely sure, we'll just leave that hanging there for the moment. I'm going to grab the key, and I've got a cable somewhere. So we're going to feed a normal USB-C cable into there. It's just quite tricky to see that. I'm going to have to That's it. So that's in there now. And we're going to plug that into the phone. Like that. And just we're going to try and see. Now before we turn the ignition on, we're going to check that that's all plugged in there. And this is all okay. And we're going to fire up the ignition and see if it charges the phone. Now at this stage, let's just check to see if it has. So hang on. So I don't know whether you heard that or not, but if I unplug the phone in, we should get a noise, but we haven't got the noise. But I can assure you, it is actually working and charging the phone. And we won't tighten them right up yet. We'll just tighten them up most of the way. And that one there at the bottom. And the last one there. So the other tricky part of this now is by putting it back on the mounting point here. We've got to get it over the mounting point here and get this in here. And then of course, once we've done that, we've got to ensure that it is compliant to regulation in terms of angle. So you can see we've got to get that bolt in there. So we'll just grab that bolt and put that bolt. I don't think these are torqued to a certain torque tightness. I did take a sneaky photograph of the angle of this, and I can then go back and we can just double check that we've got that about right. I think it's going to be near enough. And we can probably tighten these up fully now, because that doesn't make any difference. Oh, careful not to scratch that. On the other side. Again, I didn't detect any obvious over tightening or torque on these, and it's something which is accessible, so you can easily check on the fly as and when required. So those are secure now. And the last but not least, we need to put these bolts through here. Now, these may or may not be tricky. Hopefully they won't be too tricky. There we go, that's one. And then the rear one. It should just, yeah, go straight through. Those are in. So we've established that this is the right angle. What I'd recommend people do is to take a sneaky photograph of the angle here first, so you can compare and contrast later on and make sure you've got the right angle. Again, I don't think that these are going to be tightened all the way up. So that's installed there, and we've got here, you may have to use a couple of spanners to tighten and to hold that side. But this is now double checked and all these are now on. And the light is now at the right angle. And so we'll now put the screen back on. I wouldn't use any spanners on this because you can over tighten it. And that side there. That being said, obviously don't do it too loose, otherwise you'll find that you lose your screen or your bolts. So just give this another couple of turns, or a few more. I mean, these are rubber seated, so I don't think you're in any danger particularly of stripping threads, but you might compress and compact the rubber to such a level that after a while it will come loose again. That's okay. Now this job's been made a little bit more difficult by the fact that we've got the screen here in the first place. For people that haven't installed a screen will find it a little easier because obviously you haven't got this step to take. But I do recommend removing the screen. I have seen a video, which I'll put up here somewhere, where he doesn't take off the screen on his Classic. But yeah, I think probably it's sensible to remove it personally. But there you go. That is the conclusion of the installation, and quite an in-depth installation of the Honda accessory USB port, which is a USB-C, and obviously you're going to have to get the right cable. And you can see I've plumbed it through here, which will then give you connectivity if you've got a quad lock mount for your phone. And of course it'll even work with these other devices. You can get the Auchis and other bits and pieces like that if it's got a USB-C port, or you can get obviously a USB-C to a USB-A, and then it will function with anything you want really. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope it's been helpful. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.